All right, we listened to the hymn, When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, and hopefully you liked it and thought it was as beautiful as I did. But I want to talk a little about what those words mean. And so Mr. Rumler's going to help me read the different stanzas, and a stanza is like a paragraph, and then he'll read them, and I will talk about what they mean.
When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of Glory died, my richest gain I count but loss, and pour contempt on all my pride.
Okay, so what that stanza means is a lot of times when we look at the cross, we don't think much about it. We kind of are like, yeah, that means that we're Christians, but a couple things should maybe come to mind. And maybe they're happy and sad, and they're supposed to be. The first thing we might look at or think about when we look at the cross is that it makes us sad because Jesus suffered on that cross. But it should also make us happy because with Jesus, he says, we will join him in paradise forever. And so we know as Christians, someday we'll see Jesus and we'll see him for eternity. Mr. Watts also talked about the fact he mentioned that Jesus was a prince of glory. And Jesus is often in the Bible referred to as a prince. We call him the Prince of Peace. Sometimes he's referred to as a king, like King of Kings or the ruler of kings. So that's kind of important. Okay, now we're going to go to stanza 2.
Forbid it, Lord, that I should boast, save in the death of Christ my God. All the vain things that charm me most, I sacrifice them through his blood.
And sometimes we boast about things that we've done, and we all do it, where we're kind of like, hey, I was the fastest runner today, or whatever. And Mr. Watts is suggesting we shouldn't put things like trophies or money or presidents or rulers or anything before Jesus, that he's the most important thing, and that he sacrificed so many things, so that all we should expect to do is just love him in return. So now we'll look at stanza 3.
See, from his head, his hands, his feet, sorrow and love flow mingled down. Did e'er such love and sorrow meet, or thorns compose so rich a crown?
And what this stanza means is the fact that we know that Jesus suffered greatly for our sins. We know that he suffered on the cross undeniable pain. They mocked him by putting a crown on him. There was a crown of thorns. But the writer reminds us that that crown really means so much. It means that he is the King of Kings, the Prince of Peace. And Jesus and God's love is greater than anything. And we really don't deserve it, and yet he gives it to us. Now we'll look at stanza 4.
Were the whole realm of nature mine, that were a present far too small, love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all.
So this last stanza says that, yep, we don't necessarily deserve his love. We do a lot of things that maybe aren't terrific, but because Jesus died for our sins, we will be loved forever and be able to go to eternity. And that's called grace. And so sometimes that should make us feel good, that even though we do bad things, God and Jesus still loves us. So what should we do in return? God just says to love him and love Jesus with our whole being, and to be the best person we can be. So one last thought. Jesus says if we believe in him, we'll never really die. We'll live forever with him in eternity. So that's a pretty cool thing.